Pokemon games are generally pretty lighthearted and fun, but trying to evolve certain pocket monsters can feel like a chore. Some evolution requirements aren't immediately obvious or may require an insane amount of grinding. These are my bottom 10 most frustrating Pokemon to evolve. We'll start here since pretty much everyone who has ever played Pokemon has experience with this useless fish. Magikarp only knows one move, Splash. What does it do? Nothing. How do you evolve Magikarp into an actually respectably powerful pseudo-dragon? Train it up to level 20. How do you train it up? Battle with it. Start a battle, throw out Magikarp, swap it for anything less useless, almost anything will do, finish the battle, and it gets a share of the EXP. Or just use the EXP share. Either way.
Ha! I told you Magikarp weren't useless.
For the last few generations, Game Freak has been pretty consistent about introducing at least one new gimmick in an attempt to keep fans engaged. Some of them are cool. I personally loved Mega Evolutions and wish they had kept going with that. Others, however, are a bit questionable. The ability to have your Pokemon out of their Pokeballs and auto-battle to gain EXP was kinda a cool concept. Requiring the use of this mechanic for north of 1,000 steps with no indication of whether you were close or not was a decision. That's how it works with these three, who must be leveled up after walking at least 1,000 steps using the Let's Go mechanic. They're lucky they can be useful. This one is nearly as infamous as Magikarp, though for a different reason. Before Gen 5, which to be fair was only 2 generations since it was introduced in Gen 3, Feebas had to be leveled up with a beauty stat of at least 170. How do you know what its beauty stat is? Pray. How do you raise said beauty stat? Depending on the game, you can feed it Pokeblocks or Poffins, or have it groomed by Daisy Oak. Then, just level it up again and you're all set with your beautiful Water Serpent. At least from Gen 5 onward, you can just use the Prism Scale instead of worrying about beauty, but then it becomes a trade Evo, so how much better is that really? Speaking of gimmicks again, let's talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. This game introduced us to the Hisui region in the distant past of the Pokemon world. It also introduced us to a lot of new regional variants that either had different designs and typings from the Pokemon we were used to, or had completely new evolutions that weren't accessible before. Cool concept, but actually getting some of these can be a bit unusual or downright grating. There are quite a few, so let's go through them quickly. Wordeer evolves from Stantler after using Psyshield Bash in Agile style at least 20 times. Move styles are a new gimmick that was introduced with Legends Arceus. Kleavor evolves from Scyther when exposed to Black Augurite, which can only be reliably acquired once from the quest A Nosepass to Guide the Way. Ursaluna evolves from Ursaring when exposed to a Peat Block, which can only be reliably acquired once during the quest Gone Astray in the Icelands during a full moon. Overquill evolves from Hisui and Quillfish when leveled up knowing Barb Barrage, meaning it must be at least level 28. Basculegion evolves from White Striped Basculin when leveled up after losing at least 294 HP from recoil damage without fainting. Sneasler evolves from Hisui and Sneasel when leveled up while holding a Razor Claw during the day. All other Hisuian variants evolve after a certain level like most Pokemon. Some of these aren't really too bad, but Wordeer, Kleavor, and Ursaluna specifically are a pain. At number 5 is Tyrogue. This baby fighting-type Pokemon can evolve into 3 different Pokemon: Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Hitmontop. Seems pretty useful, right? Like you should be able to choose which evolution would work best based on your strategy? You might think so, but it isn't that simple. Tyrogue's evolutionary tree is based entirely on its stats, which the player has little direct control over. Any IVs, individual values for those unfamiliar, are set and cannot be changed, while EVs, effort values, are determined by the Pokemon that Tyrogue faces and defeats in battle. Well, unless you're playing X and Y and using Super Training. There are items that can slightly raise any of a Pokemon's stats by raising an EV, but these tend to be either very rare or fairly expensive. If you really want to grind it out and get a specific evolution, Tyrogue will evolve into Hitmonlee if its attack is higher than its defense, Hitmonchan if its defense is higher than its attack, and Hitmontop if they are the same. Now we are in the bottom 5 and we have to talk about an otherwise pretty cool Pokemon. Inkay and Malamar were the first dark psychic type Pokemon introduced in the series, but that isn't the only thing that makes them unique. To evolve Inkay, you must train it up until evolution becomes possible at level 30, and hold your system upside down the next time it levels up. Do we think anyone actually just happened upon this, or did we all have to look it up on Cerebi? Let's talk about it down in the comments. This little ghosty who commandeered a treasure chest and appears in some of the most random places in Paldea couldn't possibly have an annoying evolution requirement, could it? Of course it can. This one is fairly straightforward actually, but accomplishing it feels like finding all of the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild. You must collect a total of 999 Gimmighoul coins and level it up. The coins can be acquired from either form of Gimmighoul in the overworld, though chest form Gimmighoul must be defeated or captured to actually get the coins. Collecting these isn't quite as bad as the Korok seeds because you don't have to do it one by one, but it is still going to take a while. Roaming form will give between 1 to 200 and chest form will give between 10 to 777, though odds are of course exponentially lower for the higher amounts. Fun fact, Gimmighoul's evolution cannot be cancelled by hitting B. There are a total of 25 evolution lines that require trading, 27 if you count regional forms. This started in Gen 1 with the original 4 comprised of Alakazam, Machamp, Golem, and Gengar. Throughout the generations, more have been added, including a few that were added to Pokemon introduced in Gen 1. Some Pokemon require a specific item to be held in order to evolve when traded, such as the Dragon Scale to evolve Seadra into Kingdra. Interestingly, while most trade Evo lines require a trade to obtain the final evolution, some trade Evos are branched evolutions like Poliwhirl evolving into Politoed instead of Poliwrath. These are frustrating simply due to the requirement of having a friend who is willing to trade with you, and that you trust to return your Pokemon once you're finished. These two are a bit of a continuation of the previous entry, but they deserve their own spot due to their extra requirement. Karrablast and Shelmet are both trade Evos, but you cannot simply trade them for anything that may be on offer. These two Pokemon must be traded for each other in order to evolve. They were introduced in Gen 5 and are the only pair so far with this evolution requirement. I guess these two little bugs just don't like to be separated. Also, if you really want to be an asshole to someone, neither Karrablast or Shelmet will evolve after the trade is complete if either one of them is holding an Everstone. Many of you will likely not be surprised by my number 10, but for those who aren't familiar with Pokemon Go, allow me to explain. Meltan is an adorable little mass of liquid metal which resembles Mercury, with a copper-looking hexagonal nut for a head and an exposed wire for a tail. It was introduced in 2018 in Pokemon Go and is technically a mythical Pokemon. What makes it so frustrating to evolve is that it requires 400 Meltan candies to evolve into Melmetal, and you cannot evolve it in any other game. That means that you must collect all 400 candies and evolve it before transferring it to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee or Pokemon Home. It does not require a lot of skill to collect all the candies, but it does take quite a long time. Meltan are not able to be encountered normally and will only appear after the mystery box has been opened. This gives the player 60 minutes where Meltan will spawn and are able to be caught, after which they must transfer a Pokemon to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee or Pokemon Home to reset it. Needless to say, this can become quite a slog. Good thing it's cute. Galarian Yamask evolves into Runerigus when the player passes under a stone arch in the Dusty Bowl after having lost at least 49 HP from a single attack without fainting. No way you're stumbling on this one without a guide. Milcery evolves into Alcremie after the player gives it a sweet and does a spin. Fairly simple, right? If you don't care about the color of it or don't know that there are different colors, sure. However, there are 9 different potential colors for Alcremie, and the one you get depends entirely on the length of the player's spin and the time of day it's done. Let me know if you have any differing opinions or if I missed any frustrating evolutions. Just don't start a fight in my comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed and join the family if you want to see more nerdy shit. Remember, love recklessly. Start with yourself.